Hi, and welcome to the Financial Modeling Podcast. In Season 4, we explore what makes good financial modelers great. The ability to tell a story, being able to model legal nuances, using the financial model as an effective negotiating tool to close deals. These are just some of the skills we reveal as what you need to know to become a master financial modeler. Season 4 of the Financial Modeling Podcast is sponsored by Full Stack Modeler. Your journey into the future of financial modeling starts here.
And we're back. We're back live, and great timing, in fact, because Robin is about to join. So let me bring this here, and let me let Robin into the room. And Robin,
hello.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. I love the background there.
Homemade is a DIY job.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, your DIY skills are then better than me, because if you have a look behind me, you'll see that there are double-sided sort of heavy-duty tape where a picture used to hang, and it's not there anymore. So your DIY skills are better than mine. Give me a second.
No worries.
Getting a bit excited here, and things are falling off my desk. So anyway, so my frame's broken, but I need to buy another one. But Robin, great to meet you, and great to chat. I think that we've got a lot to chat about. And I mean, obviously, running the Financial Modeling Podcast, I've spoken a lot about how one can build a business, becoming a financial modeler, run a financial modeling consultancy, and all the different streams. But of course, it's all very well being an entrepreneur and a consultant, but if you're not charging, then it's just a hobby.
Pretty much, yeah. Or you're a charity, one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that financial modelers struggle with, and even me. I used to get a lot of requests on LinkedIn, and it's funny, and I'm not sure if it's a perception, but I'd say, okay, well, what's your budget? And then somebody would reply on LinkedIn, say, oh, are you going to charge me? And I'd say, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do it for free, because exactly, I'm not a charity, and also you're in it to make money. You want the financial model to raise capital, to build a business, to model a business. So why would I spend my time doing that for you for free? I don't even know you. That's not to say I haven't gone down that path before and done financial models for free, but it's certainly something to chat about. So maybe let's chat about that. I mean, it's something that you help entrepreneurs with, billing, something that's easier said than done. I think a lot of people say, firstly, how do I even ask a client to bill? I want to build a relationship with them? Do I do some work for free and then bill them? And then it's a case of, what do I bill them? Do I bill them an hourly rate? Do I bill them? But I mean, that always has issues, because obviously the value that one delivers, especially through a financial model, might take me 10 hours to build a financial model. That's because I've had years of practice. Company might be able to raise $1 billion with that financial model. So the hour to value is not necessarily how do you model that? Maybe let me hand over to you. I'm talking enough. I think people are hungry for the answers here.
Yeah, I mean, it's whether it's financial modeling, or it doesn't matter what sort of business you're in. Most consultants, freelancers are, well, first of all, they're incredibly intelligent and bright people, but as a result of that, I think sometimes they can, what they have got in terms of credentials and certifications, they may be lacking in terms of business confidence and skills. So that's the first thing. But I'd always encourage somebody when they're first starting out as well, it's no problem in doing sort of 3 for free in order to get testimonials, case studies and things like that. That's social proof. But once you've done the 3 for free, well, you've got to charge something. One of the simplest ways to, I guess from a client's perspective, they may be thinking there's an element of risk here. What am I going to get? How much confidence do I have in this person's ability to deliver? How long is it going to take? And what's my return on investment going to be from investing in that person? And what we've discovered is that if you can answer those questions and articulate your value, strongly enough, you can also, when you start to get into the objections around price, oh, well, what, I've got to pay for it? Well, yes, of course you have. you can then also start to de-risk it for your prospect. So doing a very simple risk reversal, or a very obvious one, is a money back guarantee. So we'll do these financial models. If you genuinely feel that you haven't had value for money, we'll just do your refund. What we want is happy customers. We don't want to be, making people unhappy or not delivering the service that we promised you. First, that's when we get the first international sign of distress goes out. Can possibly do a money back guarantee. What if they ask for their money back? Well, I've been doing money back guarantees on my products. I ran a marketing agency for 12 years. I've been running a coaching practice now for 4.5 years. And I ran another business before that. And in 16 years of running my own businesses, only 2 people have ever asked for their money back. And quite frankly, one was I can't say it probably, it's a bit rude. He was just an utter idiot. And it was like, just easier just to give him his money back and get rid of him, pay him off. And the other person, we're talking hundreds of clients here over those 16 years. And the other person, it just, no matter what we did for them, we just couldn't get it to work. And she said, oh, well, I've had value for money, but I felt bad because I knew that she was very short of cash and I didn't want to be leaving, somebody totally out of pocket. So it felt like the right thing to do to refund her. But we've got pretty much 99.9%, satisfaction guarantee because we're that confident in our ability to deliver. And I think if you ask most of the financial modelers, the Excel consultants out there, or consultants in general, the moment you say offer a money back guarantee, there's 2 things. They're either worried about their own ability to deliver, or they're worried about what the relationship is going to be like with the client at the other end. And quite often than not, there are tricky clients, but then you can start to mitigate that over time. So that's kind of the first starting point. And then you get into all of the sort of you start to get into sales and how do you articulate your value and things like that. So fire away with your questions if you have them on behalf of your listeners.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, right? Because it's almost a different approach when it comes to consulting. And it's, for example, when one walks into a hairdresser for a haircut, there's no way that you would ever say, well, can't you just cut my hair for free? But somehow when it comes to consulting and financial
Ferrari
models,
I wanted, I'll have that for free too, if that's okay.
Exactly, and yet a financial model, which is, I've been practicing my craft for years to be able to deliver a financial model. I think people kind of say, well, can't you just build me one quickly for free? And of course, yes, it takes me a short amount of time now to build a financial model, but that's only because I've been building them for over 12 years.
Yeah, well, it's one of the biggest mistakes, actually. So I believe like hourly rate, especially, is like fundamentally unethical. Okay, so I'll break that down for you. So imagine you're in the market for a financial model, and I'm going to build it for you, and I'm going to charge you £50 an hour, $50 an hour, and I think it will take me 20 hours. That cool? Just go with me on it. Go with me, right? So we go away and we build it, and it takes me a little bit longer because what I forgot to tell you was I haven't been doing this for terribly long, so I'm not very good at it. So then we come back, and about 3 months later, and I go, ta-da, here it is. And you go, oh, but Robin, there's this really important piece of information that's missing off there. Oh gosh, you're right, Matthew. I'll tell you what, give me another 10 hours. I'll go away and build it, and you've got to pay for it. Is that okay? And you're thinking, no, that's not right. Whereas we've got Matthew, who's like super experienced on the other hand, who comes in, and let's say you hadn't met Robin yet and you didn't know about the hourly rate, the pricing side of things, all of the knowledge that Robin knows. That's me, obviously. And you're still quoting £50 an hour, but because you're so good, it only takes you 10 hours. So you've got the rubbish data modeler, financial modeler, it's taking $1,500 and you $500, but your product's much better, it's more accurate, it's going to give there's less errors in it, or whatever it might be. So that just tells me, first of all, that it's like fundamentally unethical. Whereas we've got Matthew now, Mark II, comes along, knows what Robin knows about pricing. And you mentioned about that potential $1 billion investment based on this financial model. Well, how about you go in with, hey, just all I'm asking for is $15,000 up front and 0.25% of the upside. Do the maths on that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we don't hit $1 billion, you don't have to pay me. How's that?
Much better.
Yeah, so that's just about having that ability to articulate your value and know your worth, which most consultants, believe it or not, they do know it. They're just not confident enough to be able to actually say it.
So let's get to it. I think you're 100% correct. I mean, I think it's they know that they can do it. They've done it before. They've done it many times, but they maybe don't have that confidence. Where does that confidence come from? Does it come from negotiating over and over? Does it come from trying to sell your product over and over? Where does it come from?
Believe it or not, it comes from a time before we were born. So when we're in our mum's tummies, and if she was stressed, we end up stressed. If she had depression, we end up depressed. If she, was happy and joyful and peaceful, we end up joyful, peaceful, happy. Now, by the way, I'm not a scientist or anything like that. This is, I've read quite a lot, but it's been proven that kind of our emotional blueprint has been created by the time we're born. We then move up to the next level of consciousness, which is when we're born, up to the age of about 3, which is where we start to understand, or where our value blueprint is created, our money blueprint. So that's the point where, well, I don't know about you, but at 3, how good was your counting, and how good were you at negotiating and understanding value at that age?
Well, negotiating, I'm probably not bad at negotiating, right?
Yeah, it's probably daddy, it's probably very much like that. So, but what we do is, because we've, but the reason why it's by the time we're 3 is because it's been, 90% of us, it's been seeded inside us about, our parents arguing over money. It's too expensive. We can't take that trip because it's just too much money. We've got to go out and work to get more money. So we have all this stuff that we've learned subconsciously or unconsciously by the time we're 3. And then when we grow into adults and run businesses as adults, we're relying on this thing that we built by the time we were 3 years old to serve us when we're running grown-up businesses. And it just doesn't work. And so you have to start to unpack that and reprogram what's going on sort of up here to show people, no, they are great at what they do. And it's okay to tell other people that you're great at what you do. And that's pretty much the start of it. You also then start to come into things like leadership. So, and what I mean by that is it's not being able to stand up in front of a room full of 150 subordinates and tell them what they should be doing within their business. It's more so about just the service client, relationship. Okay, so what a client tends to want to do is lead it, because they're the one who's got the money. They're going to give you the money. So, hey, we're going to do it my way. Actually, as a service provider, we're like, well, hang on, you need me more than I need you, because you need this thing that you don't currently have that's going to get you $1 billion investment. So just go with me. So it's about just slowing the process down enough so that you can start to assume that position of leadership. Imagine walking into a hospital, right, and your neck's bleeding, okay? It's dire. And what would normally happen is that the doctor would throw you on the operating theatre table, dose you up with put you under, put you to sleep, stitch you up, and then away you go. But imagine if today he's going to decide, do you know what, Matthew, actually, I'm a bit tired. As a patient, I'm going to let you make up your own mind. And you go, oh, do you know what? I think a sticky plaster will do. And then you walk straight out of the hospital and bleed to death on the street. Okay. So we can't allow our clients to be making these really important decisions. I mean, it's never going to be as life or death as a bleeding neck, but it could be the equivalent of that in a business. Imagine the difference of getting, $1 billion investment versus $100 million investment. That's going to really stifle the growth of a business, so that could be life or death. It might be that they need $250 million in order to survive. So we have to assume that position of leadership as consultants.
I love that, and in fact, when you're a financial modeler being brought in, the company's hiring you for that expertise. It's your job to impart it and to lead that engagement on the financial model, because that is your expertise. That's why the company is paying you. So Robin, obviously, typically what happens is you might say, well, the model's going to cost X, and the client goes, that might be a lot.
That's a good reaction.
So I mean, to talk us through that, how do you get past that with the client?
Yeah, so it's actually really positive if a client comes back and says it's too expensive, because in their mind they're going, I need this thing, but the parity's not there, or the parity's there because they're there's tension now because the number they had in their head is different to what you've now just put out there into the world. But it's great. Now we're both like being open and honest with one another. So we can start that negotiation at that point. But the thing is, like, what I tend to do at that point, and this is kind of going more so into sort of sales tactics here, what I probably suggest people do at that point is to say, well, hey, let's park the money for a second. On a scale of 1 to 10, based on what we've discussed so far and the result which I've promised, how confident are you in my ability to deliver that? 10 being, yeah, you're going to smash it, I need this product. 1 being, actually, I'm not so sure. Most of the time, people will come in at sort of a 7, 8, or a 9 out of 10. And I would never take a client on unless I was a solid 9 or definitely a 10. If they're like a 6, 7, or an 8, there's some key pieces of information missing here. So rather than deal with price, which is the objection they've given us, and price is never the real objection, we've got to work out, well, what's going to get them from a 6, 7, or an 8 up to a 9 or a 10? So normally what that comes down to is, like, maybe they didn't fully understand your process. Maybe they didn't fully understand what their responsibilities were, that they had, what information have they got to put into it. They don't maybe understand how long it's going to take, or they're just not confident about whether this could work for them. So actually you've got a number of different objections there, which have nothing to do with price whatsoever. So you loop and you address those objections. And then when they're kind of saying, yeah, I get it now, that actually, I'm bang on, this is perfect, this is exactly what I need, great. Well, let's talk about price then, because the price is what it is. Now that you said that this is what you need, let's just get creative over it. And like most consultants are, again, they're too fearful of having that money conversation. It's a bit like when somebody says how much, and they start, it's like Gollum with the ring, they just kind of shrink and like disappear, into the background. They don't want to have that conversation. It's just money. It's like, it's just what is. It's not like there's anything like, it's just a bit of paper with some like numbers on it. In fact, most of the time it's digital and we don't even see it. It's like, there's nothing to it, but it's that 3-year-old comes out inside of, oh gosh, got to talk about money. Ugh. So you've got to overcome that. And actually, one of the really interesting things, if you look at it from a psychological perspective, is that most people are emotionally attached to getting a yes, or more often than not, a no. A no plays much harder on our kind of thoughts than, getting a yes. And so if you can actually go into it not worried about whether you're going to get the sale or not, for example. So, if I go into a sale thinking I've got to get this sale because I've got to put food on my table and pay my mortgage and pay my bills and stuff like that, all of a sudden it's all about me. It's no longer about Matthew. Do you see? So, and the most important person here is actually the client, right? We've got to service the client's needs. If our product isn't right for the client, we shouldn't sell it to them. And actually, if they say no, that's the universe telling us that it's not right. So we've got to detach emotionally from getting that yes or the no. When we can get used to hearing lots of no's, it actually desensitizes us and emotionally detaches us from the yeses as well. It is just what it is. It's just business. We get some yeses, we get no's. And actually, if you look at the numbers, I always recommend a good conversion rate is like, I don't know, 1 in 5 to 1 in 3. So 25% up to, or 20% up to 33.33%, right? If you're actually closing more than 33.33% of your clients, let's round it up to 35%, you're probably too cheap. So you can start to look to increase your prices. And we just gradually increment it, and we artificially, deflate our conversion rate until we hit that magical sweet spot. And that's where kind of demand meets supply, and we've got good, economically it works for our business. We've got nice, healthy profit margins, like 25, 30%, and everything's rosy. And at that point, we don't care whether we're getting clients or not, because when we do get the clients, they're paying their worth, they love what we do, and we get great results for them.
Amazing insights. I mean, I've got a few questions that are coming up here, but one of them, I'm just going to ask one of them quickly before we wrap up, and that's, starting up a financial modeling consultancy now in the age of COVID, it's a little bit more difficult to go and meet clients, to open up those introductions. Do you think it's easier?
If you think it's more difficult, what is it going to be?
More difficult.
More difficult. If you focus, whatever you focus on, you'll get more of it, and it narrows your focus. If you think it's going to be difficult, no matter how small, it triggers something in your reticular activator system. Reptile brain has just kicked in, and it's now trying to work out whether I should fight, flight, or freeze, when I'm faced with this idea that I've just said it's too difficult. If it's too challenging, I can't do it. So it's not too difficult. Come on, there's 7 billion people in the world. There's however many millions, tens or hundreds of millions of businesses out there. There are plenty of people who need your help. You just haven't found them yet.
I love it. Robin, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Really fantastic advice. People want to hear more about you. I'll obviously post your books and all of your various talks on your website in the description, and enjoy the rest of the Global Excel Summit.
I will do. Thank you ever so much, Matthew. Really appreciate you having me on here.
The world is changing. Financial modelling is no longer just about Excel, and yet Excel modelling skills have never been more valuable. The Full Stack Modeler is an online learning and membership community for finance professionals who are ready to embrace the future. We created Full Stack because we believe that finance professionals need to master Excel, need to master modelling, and need to master all the technologies around Excel, and even that isn't enough. We also need to master the softer skills: communicating, presenting, listening, influencing. Sign up for our short email sequence at fullstackmodeler.com and you'll get the chance to do a full audit of your modelling skill set and find out if the full stack journey might be for you. If it is, use the offer code podcast at checkout to get 10% off your membership.